Welcome back, survivors. Today, we are diving into something different. This entire video explores one massive what-if scenario. What would the Fallout wasteland look like if the Forced Evolutionary Virus was never created? You think you know the horrors of the wasteland, but without FEV, without Super Mutants, without the Master's unity, humanity would have faced something far worse. Slow devolution into mutated subspecies, complete societal collapse, and the extinction of everything that makes us human. This is the testimony of a world that never existed, but should terrify you more than any Deathclaw ever could. And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of dark storytelling, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if it truly resonates with you. I need you to understand something before we go any further. The wasteland you think you know never existed. Not really, not the way it should have, because there was a virus, a deliberate creation, something West Tech cooked up in their laboratories while the world was busy tearing itself apart. They called it the Forced Evolutionary Virus, FEV, 3 letters that rewrote the entire future of what came after the bombs. But I am here to tell you about the wasteland that should have been, the one that would have existed if those scientists had never succeeded. If FEV had remained nothing more than failed experiments in petri dishes, if the vats at Mariposa had stayed empty, this is not speculation. This is confession. I have seen the records. I have walked through the ruins of West Tech. I have read the research logs that everyone else overlooked. And I have spent 2 decades piecing together what the wasteland would have become without that virus, what it was always meant to be. It would have been so much worse. You are thinking that sounds wrong. You are remembering the Super Mutants, the Unity, the Master, and his army of hulking green giants that nearly conquered everything. You are thinking that without FEV, without Super Mutants, the wasteland would have been safer. You are wrong. Let me start with what you need to know about radiation. Real radiation, not the comic book version where you grow extra arms and gain superpowers. Not the FEV-accelerated mutations that could transform a man into a super mutant in hours. Radiation kills. That is what it does. That is all it does at first. High doses turn your insides to soup. Your cells stop dividing. Your DNA fractures into useless fragments. You bleed from places you did not know could bleed. Your hair falls out in clumps. Your skin sloughs off in sheets. And then you die, usually screaming, always in agony. Lower doses are slower, more insidious. Cancers bloom in your organs like poisonous flowers. Tumors grow where they should not. Your children are born wrong, if they are born at all. Mutations happen, yes, but they are not the dramatic transformations you see in the holotapes. They are subtle. A 6th finger, a cleft palate, internal organs that do not quite work right, blood that does not clot properly, bones that grow brittle and snap under normal stress. This is what radiation does. This is what it was doing to everything that survived the initial blasts. The bombs fell on October 23rd, 2077. You know this. Everyone knows this. But what you do not know is what happened in the months that followed in a world where FEV never existed. The first generation died fast. Radiation sickness took most of them within weeks. The ones who made it to shelters, who found clean water, who got lucky with the fallout patterns, they survived. But they were changed, not dramatically, not obviously, but changed. Their children were born smaller, weaker. The infant mortality rate in that first decade would have been catastrophic. We are talking about 70, maybe 80% of babies dying before their first birthday. Birth defects, organ failures, immune systems that could not handle the contaminated world they were born into. But some survived, some adapted. Let me tell you what natural selection looks like when it is accelerated by ionizing radiation and a complete collapse of civilization. It is brutal, it is slow, and it creates horrors that FEV could never match. Because FEV, for all its flaws, worked fast. Dip someone in the vats, and within hours, you knew if they would become a super mutant or die. The transformation was complete in days. Painful, yes. Traumatic, absolutely. But quick. Radiation does not work that way. Radiation is patient. Over decades, over generations, radiation would have sculpted the survivors into something new. Not super mutants, not ghouls in the way you understand them. Something else entirely. The human body is remarkably adaptable when given enough time and enough selective pressure. The people who could tolerate higher radiation doses, who had DNA that was slightly more resistant to damage, who could repair cellular mutations more efficiently, Those people survived, they bred, their children inherited those traits, 200 years. That is 8 to 10 generations if you are generous with life expectancy in the wasteland. That is enough time for evolution to do extraordinary things when the selective pressure is this intense. What do you think humanity would look like after 200 years of that? Let me paint you a picture based on the biological models I have run, based on the population genetic studies from the old world, based on what we know about mutation rates and selective breeding. First, they would be smaller, much smaller. Reduced body mass means less tissue to accumulate radiation damage, less energy expenditure in a world where food is scarce and often contaminated. You would be looking at adult humans averaging maybe 5 feet tall, 100 pounds if they are well fed. Children of the wasteland, people would call them, and they would not be wrong. Their skin would be different, darker in some populations, almost grey in others. Not the green of super mutants or the necrotic leather of ghouls, just different, thicker, more resistant to UV radiation and environmental toxins. Some populations might develop a kind of natural armor, patches of thickened skin over vital organs. Their eyes would be larger, better at gathering light in the perpetual gloom of the post-war world, adapted to see in conditions that would leave old-world humans blind and stumbling. Some might develop a reflective layer behind the retina, like cats, making their eyes shine in the dark. Their hands would be different too, more fingers perhaps, or fewer. Mutations that proved useful would spread through the population. An extra thumb for better grip, longer fingers for reaching into tight spaces, claws instead of nails for digging and defense. And their minds. This is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets truly frightening. The human brain is plastic, adaptable, but it is also fragile. Radiation damage to developing neural tissue causes cognitive problems, memory issues, reduced impulse control, aggression. In a world without FEV, without the Master's grand vision of unity, without the organized threat of super mutant armies, humanity would have fragmented into tribes, small groups, families, clans, each one adapting to their local environment in slightly different ways. And they would have been violent, so incredibly violent, because here is what you need to understand. The Master, for all his madness, created order. The unity was a goal, a vision, something that organized the chaos of the wasteland into a coherent threat that could be opposed, negotiated with, ultimately defeated. Without FEV, there would be no unity, no Master, no organized super mutant armies marching across the wasteland with purpose and strategy. Just chaos. Thousands of small tribes, each one slightly mutated, each one competing for the same scarce resources, each one viewing the others as enemies or prey. What do you think really happened here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I would like to know if I am the only one who feels this way. The violence would be constant, unrelenting. Not the grand battles between the Brotherhood and the Super Mutants. Not the strategic warfare of the NCR against organized foes. Just endless, grinding tribal conflict. Raids, ambushes, massacres, over water sources and patches of arable land, and the Brotherhood of Steel. Let me tell you about what would have happened to them. Captain Roger Maxson and his soldiers rebelled against the FEV experiments at Mariposa Military Base in October 2077. That rebellion, that moral stand against unethical science, that is what founded the Brotherhood. Their entire purpose, their whole identity, was shaped by their horror at what FEV represented. Without FEV, there is no Mariposa Rebellion. The scientists there would have been working on what? Conventional weapons? Strategic planning? Nothing that would have triggered a mutiny. Maxson and his men would have just been another military unit caught in the blast. They might have survived. They might have made it to Lost Hills. But they would not have been the Brotherhood of Steel. They would have been just another group of survivors with guns. Maybe they would have become warlords. Maybe they would have tried to maintain order, establish a new government. But without that foundational trauma, without that defining moment of standing against the abuse of science and technology, they would not have developed the same philosophy. No preservation of technology for the good of humanity. No scribes carefully cataloguing pre-war knowledge. No paladins serving as protectors of the wasteland. Just soldiers trying to survive, same as everyone else. The power vacuum would have been total. Think about it. In the real timeline, the super mutant threat forced other factions to organize, to cooperate, to become something more than just scattered survivors. The NCR grew strong partly because they had to. The Brotherhood became what it was because of the Master. Without that organizing threat, without the unity forcing humanity to band together or die, there would be no large factions at all. No NCR, no organized Brotherhood, just endless small-scale warfare between tribes that grew more mutated and more alien with each passing generation. And the creatures. Let me tell you about the creatures. FEV created rad scorpions, giant versions of normal scorpions, yes, but stable, able to breed, part of the ecosystem, dangerous, but understandable. Without FEV, radiation alone would have worked on the local fauna. But it would have been different, slower, more unpredictable. You would not get stable species. You would get cancer-ridden monstrosities that could barely survive. Scorpions with too many legs that collapsed under their own weight. Spiders the size of dogs with exoskeletons that cracked and wept pus. Rats with tumors growing out of tumors, barely able to move but still somehow alive, still breeding more malformed offspring. Nothing would be stable. Nothing would make sense. The ecosystem would be a nightmare of failed mutations and radiation-induced abnormalities. Most creatures would die young. The ones that survived would be the stuff of nightmares. Not because they were designed or evolved properly, but because they were biological accidents that somehow managed to keep functioning despite being fundamentally wrong. Death claws would not exist. They were created by the US government using FEV and genetic engineering on Jackson chameleons. Without FEV, they would just be lizards. Maybe bigger lizards if radiation played kind, but not the apex predators that strike fear into every wasteland traveler. What would fill that ecological niche instead? What would become the top predator in a world of slow, radiation-driven mutation? Humans, mutated, devolved, barely recognizable humans. Some populations would have adapted by becoming more predatory. Stronger jaws, sharper teeth, pack-hunting instincts. 200 years is not enough time for proper evolution, but with radiation forcing rapid mutations and brutal selective pressure, you would see populations that started to fill predator niches. Cannibalism would not be a choice. It would be survival. It would be normal. The tribes that refused to eat their enemies, their dead, even their own weak, they would starve. They would die out. The ones that adapted, that overcame that old world squeamishness, they would thrive. You think raiders are bad in the current wasteland? They are organized. They have leaders. They have some semblance of strategy. In this version, every tribe would be raiders. Every human settlement would be fortified against constant attack. Trust would not exist outside your immediate family, and even that would be uncertain. And the vaults. This is where Vault-Tech's experiments become even more disturbing. In the real timeline, many vaults used FEV in their experiments. Vault 87's Evolutionary Experimentation Program, the Institute's research. Multiple facilities trying to understand and weaponize the virus. Without FEV, what would Vault-Tech have done instead? They would have gotten creative with radiation itself, with isolation, with psychological torture, with breeding programs designed to create humans adapted to different environments. Vault 12 in Necropolis, the one with the door designed not to close properly. In the real timeline, the massive radiation exposure created ghouls. Immortal, intelligent but necrotic, horrifying but stable. Without FEV's influence, without that viral component interacting with the radiation to create a stable mutation, you would just get radiation sickness. Slow death, cancerous growths, people rotting alive without the compensating regeneration that makes ghouls viable. Every Vault experiment would be more cruel because the results would be more unpredictable. Vault-Tech would not have the baseline of FEV research to work from. They would be flying blind, trying everything, watching most of their subjects die in horrible ways, keeping meticulous notes on the few that survived. The wasteland would be a laboratory. Every survivor would be an unwitting test subject in thousands of uncontrolled experiments in human adaptation to extreme radiation. And over time, over generations, humanity would fragment. Not into factions with different ideologies, into subspecies, genetically distinct populations that could barely interbreed. Some adapted to the coasts, some to the mountains, some to the deep underground. Each population would develop its own mutations, its own appearance, its own barely human characteristics. Meeting another tribe would be like encountering aliens. Communication would break down. Violence would be the default. The wasteland would not be a place of faction warfare and political intrigue. It would be pure survival horror. Every day would be a fight against radiation, against starvation, against tribes of mutated humans who saw you as food or threat. No super mutants to oppose, no master to defeat, no clear victory condition, just endless struggle. In a world that grew more alien and more hostile with each passing year. This is what the wasteland was always meant to be. This is what FEV saved us from. I know that sounds insane. Saved us? FEV created super mutants, created the unity, nearly led to the extinction of baseline humanity, but it also gave us enemies we could understand, gave us a threat we could organize against, gave the Brotherhood purpose, gave humanity a reason to band together instead of splintering into 1,000 mutated tribes. FEV, in its own twisted way, kept us human, kept us unified enough to rebuild, to create societies, to have a future. Without it, we would have devolved into something else entirely, something that could not build cities or preserve knowledge or dream of. Reclaiming the old world, we would have become animals, mutated, desperate, barely sapient, and the wasteland would have belonged to the radiation and the chaos and the slow, grinding horror of evolution, running wild in the worst possible conditions. Let me show you what 200 years actually looks like. Year 0, October 2077, the bombs fall. Most people die instantly. The ones in the right places, the ones who get to shelters, they survive the initial blasts. Maybe 30 million people across the entire former United States. Maybe less, they think they will rebuild. They always do, year 5. The survivors are dying. Radiation sickness takes the ones who ventured out too soon. Starvation takes the ones who stayed in shelters too long. Contaminated water kills thousands more. The population drops to maybe 20 million. Maybe 15. The babies born in these years are wrong. So many of them are just wrong. Mothers give birth to things that cannot survive. Things without fully formed organs. Things with neural tubes that never closed properly. Things that live for hours or days before their malformed bodies give out. Some babies are born normal. Those are the lucky ones. Those are the ones who carry the genes that will matter later. Year 10. The first generation of wasteland children are growing up. They are smaller than their parents, sickly, prone to infections, but they are alive. They have never known the old world. They do not mourn it. Tribal structures are forming. Extended families banding together. Anyone outside your immediate group is a threat. Violence is constant. Daily, the population continues to drop. Year 20. The second generation is being born. They are noticeably different from their grandparents. Shorter, lighter bones. Skin with a greyish tint in some populations. Eyes that reflect light strangely. These are not dramatic mutations, just shifts. Adaptations to a world soaked in radiation. Language is starting to fragment. Each tribe develops its own dialect, its own words for things that never existed before the war. Communication between groups becomes harder. Year 50, 3 generations now. The old world is a myth, stories told by the few remaining survivors who actually remember before. Most people alive now were born into the wasteland. They know nothing else. The mutations are more pronounced. Some tribes have developed resistance to specific types of radiation. Others have adapted to survive on contaminated food that would kill their grandparents. The selective pressure is intense, brutal, unforgiving. A tribe discovers a cache of pre-war weapons. They use them to wipe out 3 neighboring tribes and take their territory. This is what passes for progress. This is what counts as advancement. Year 100. Everyone who remembers the old world is dead. The wasteland is all there is, all there has ever been. The human populations are diverging, splitting into genetically distinct groups based on geography and local adaptation pressures. In the coastal regions, where the water is thick with radiation and the fish are poisoned, a population has emerged that can tolerate higher levels of contamination. Their livers are enlarged. Their kidneys work differently. They eat things that would kill mainlanders within hours. But they are losing something too. Their higher cognitive functions are degrading. Memory formation is impaired. Planning more than a few days ahead is difficult. They live in the moment because that is all their radiation-soaked brains can handle. In the mountains, where the air is thinner and the radiation lower, a different adaptation is occurring. These populations are taller than their lowland cousins. Leaner. Their lungs are more efficient. They can survive in high altitudes that would leave others gasping, but they cannot tolerate the lowlands anymore. The thicker air makes them sick. The higher radiation levels poison them quickly. They are trapped in their mountains, isolated, inbreeding, developing mutations that are starting to make them look distinctly non-human. Underground populations are emerging. People who fled to subway tunnels, to basement shelters, to natural caves. They never came back up. Why would they? The surface is death. 2 generations in the dark. 3, 4. Their eyes are changing, growing larger, more sensitive to faint light. Some are losing pigmentation entirely. Pale skin, colorless hair, eyes that cannot tolerate surface light anymore. They are adapting to the underground, developing a culture based on fungus farming and hunting the mutated insects that thrive in the dark. They view surface dwellers with the same fear and hatred that surface dwellers view them. When the 2 populations meet, violence is inevitable. Year 150. The divergence is accelerating. The populations are becoming subspecies. Interbreeding between groups is producing sterile offspring. The genetic drift has gone too far. Humans from the coast cannot produce viable children with humans from the mountains. The underground populations cannot breed with surface populations at all. This is speciation in action. This is how one species becomes many when isolated populations face different selective pressures. And without FEV, without the master's vision of unity, without a common enemy to fight, there is nothing bringing these populations together. Nothing forcing them to recognize each other as the same species. They are becoming separate, distinct, alien to each other. Trade between groups is almost non-existent. How do you trade when you cannot communicate? When you view the other group as monsters? When their food is poison to you and yours is poison to them? Technology is regressing. No one remembers how to maintain the old machines. No one has the education. The knowledge is dying with each generation. A tribe finds a working generator. They worship it as a god. They do not understand electricity. They do not know how to repair it when it breaks. When it finally dies, they go to war with neighboring tribes, convinced that they stole the generator's spirit. This is what happens to technology without preservation. Without organizations like the Brotherhood to protect and understand it, it becomes magic. Religion. Cargo cult science performed by people who do not understand what they are doing. Year 200. This is where the games take place. This is the wasteland as we know it. But in this timeline, in the world without FEV, it looks completely different. There are no cities, no New Vegas rebuilt from old world ruins, no Diamond City rising from Fenway Park, no settlements that hold more than 100 people. Why? Because there is no security, no organized defense. Every settlement is constantly under attack from other tribes, from mutated predators, from raiders who are just other desperate humans trying to survive. Any group that grows too large becomes a target, gets wiped out. The survivors scatter, reform into smaller groups. The cycle repeats. The average human lifespan is maybe 30 years, 40 if you are incredibly lucky. Violence, disease, radiation sickness, starvation, childbirth. 1,000 ways to die young. Literacy is almost extinct. A few tribes have oral traditions, stories, songs, but writing, reading, those are lost arts. The pre-war books have rotted. The few that remain are incomprehensible. The alphabet itself is being forgotten. Medicine is barely existent. Herbal remedies, rituals, superstition. A broken bone is often a death sentence. An infection will kill you slowly and painfully. Surgery is butchery performed by people with no understanding of anatomy. Radiation sickness is just called the wasting. Everyone gets it eventually. You waste away. Your hair falls out. You bleed from your gums and your bowels. You die delirious and in agony. This is normal. This is expected. This is just how life ends, and the mutations continue. Every generation is more different from baseline humanity than the last. Some populations are developing what looks like natural armor, thick growths of keratin along the spine and shoulders. It protects against attacks but makes movement stiff, painful. These people walk hunched over. They cannot turn their heads properly, but they survive attacks that would kill others. Other populations are losing their hair entirely, developing smooth, thick skin that resists radiation better. They look like something between human and dolphin, smooth, alien, unsettling. The underground populations have gone further. Some have developed echolocation. They click and whistle in the dark, navigating by sound. Their eyes are enormous but nearly useless in bright light. They are becoming something else, something that could never return to the surface even if they wanted to. If you have ever wondered what choice you would make in a situation like this, tell me in the comments. I will be reading them. Let me tell you about the dulling. That is what I call it. The slow loss of intelligence across the population. The human brain is expensive. It requires massive amounts of energy. 20% of your caloric intake goes to feeding your brain. In a world where food is scarce and often contaminated, maintaining a large energy-hungry brain is a liability. Natural selection favors smaller brains, more efficient brains, brains that use less energy even if they are less capable. Over generations, average intelligence drops. Not dramatically, not in a way any individual would notice, but measurably, documentably. Problem-solving abilities decrease, abstract thinking becomes harder, planning for the future becomes nearly impossible, impulse control deteriorates, the populations are becoming more reactive, more aggressive, more present-focused, better at immediate survival, worse at everything that makes humans unique. Some tribes still have smart individuals, outliers, people born with the genetic lottery of a fully functional pre-war brain. These people often become shamans, leaders. They are valued but also feared, but they cannot pass it on reliably. Intelligence is polygenic, complex. Without selective breeding for it, without education systems to develop it, it fades from the population. In 3 more generations, maybe 4, the average wasteland human will have the cognitive capacity of a child. They will survive. They will breed, but they will not be sapient in the way we understand it. They will be something else, something simpler, something that fits better into the horror show the wasteland has become, and the creatures. Let me tell you what has happened to the animals. Radiation does not create stable mutations quickly. Most mutated animals die. Their offspring die. Failed experiments in biology that cannot compete with healthier populations. But some survive. Some changes prove useful. The rats are bigger, not giant like in the FEV timeline, just bigger, dog-sized instead of cat-sized. They breed fast. They eat anything. They are everywhere. They are also aggressive. Mutated brains make them fearless. They attack humans in packs. A swarm of 30 rats can strip a body to bones in minutes. Settlements wake to find children dragged from their beds, partially eaten. Left as warnings, the insects are worse. Radiation affects small creatures differently. Their short lifespans mean more generations, more chances for mutations to take hold. Cockroaches the size of your hand, mosquitoes as big as hummingbirds. Their proboscis can pierce thick leather. They hunt in swarms. They drain blood so fast you can watch a person deflate as they are fed upon. Ants have developed a kind of collective mutation. Not intelligence exactly, but coordination. They build massive colonies underground, millions of individuals working together. They farm fungus. They herd other insects like cattle. They are becoming the dominant species in many regions. When an ant colony decides to migrate, everything in their path dies. They consume it. Humans, animals, plants, everything becomes food for the colony. You can see them coming, a black carpet stretching to the horizon. There is no fighting them. You run or you die. The scorpions are still dangerous, bigger than before, more venomous, but not the stable species we see in the FEV timeline. These are cancer-ridden monstrosities. Their exoskeletons grow wrong. They die young, but they breed fast enough to maintain their population. Their venom has mutated too. It does not just cause pain and tissue damage, it causes hallucinations, psychosis. People stung by scorpions in this timeline do not die clean. They go mad first, attack their own tribe, have to be restrained, killed, burned. There are no death claws, but nature has filled that niche with something worse. The wolves survived better than most mammals. They adapted, they grew larger, more aggressive. Their pack structures became more complex. 200 years of radiation-driven evolution has created something between a wolf and a demon. They stand 5 feet at the shoulder. Their teeth are oversized, jutting from jaws that do not close properly anymore. They drool constantly, a mixture of saliva and blood from mouths that are tearing themselves apart. They hunt in packs of 20 or 30. They are smart enough to set ambushes, to herd prey into kill zones, to remember settlements and return when defenses are weak. A wolf pack can wipe out a settlement overnight. They kill everyone, eat what they can, leave the rest to rot. They do not need to. They do it anyway. Some mutation has made them enjoy killing beyond the need for food. The birds have mostly died out. Radiation affects their eggs too severely. The few that remain are twisted things, featherless, bat-like wings. They scavenge and hunt in equal measure. Their cries sound almost human, almost like screaming children. Settlers shoot them on sight. The plants are alien now too. Without FEV-created stable mutations, they have evolved in stranger directions. Trees with bark that secretes a toxic resin. Touch them and your skin blisters, burns. The resin is flammable. Forest fires are common and devastating. Vines that move. not quickly, but perceptibly. They grow toward warmth, toward movement. They strangle anything they can wrap around. Animal or human, they are patient. They are everywhere. Flowers that smell like rotting meat to attract mutated insects. But the smell makes humans violently ill, causes vomiting, disorientation. Some tribes use them as weapons, plant them around enemy settlements. Wait for the sickness to weaken them before attacking. Fungus is taking over. It grows on everything. Dead wood, living trees, animal carcasses, and humans. It infects wounds, grows in lungs, creates colonies inside living tissue. The infections are slow, painful, fatal. Some tribes have learned to cultivate certain fungi, eat them, use them for medicine. But the spores are everywhere. Everyone is infected to some degree. It is just a matter of time before the fungus wins. This is the ecosystem. This is what has replaced the old world's balanced nature. A nightmare of failed mutations and aggressive survivors. Nothing is stable. Nothing is safe. The wasteland is trying to kill you with every breath, and humanity is losing. Slowly, steadily, inevitably. The population is still declining. Births cannot keep up with deaths. Each generation is smaller than the last. In another 200 years, there might not be any humans left at all, just mutated descendants that bear no resemblance to what we once were. Post-human, adapted to the wasteland so thoroughly that they have lost everything that made them human in the first place. This is the trajectory. This is the future without FEV. No factions rising to power. No NCR bringing law and order. No Brotherhood preserving knowledge. No hope of rebuilding civilization. Just entropy, decay, devolution, the wasteland consuming itself, breaking down into simpler forms, humans becoming animals, animals becoming alien, the whole world sliding backward into primordial chaos. And there would be no stopping it, no way to reverse the process, no master to defeat, no climactic battle that changes everything. Just the slow, grinding horror of survival in a world that grows more hostile with each passing year. This is what we were saved from. This is what FEV prevented by giving us a common enemy, a reason to stay human, to organize, to fight for something beyond immediate survival. But there is something else, something I have not told you yet, something I found in the deepest archives, in the records no one was supposed to see, and it changes everything. Vault-Tec knew. They knew exactly what would happen without FEV. I found the projections 3 months ago, hidden in a data cache beneath Vault 101, sealed behind encryption that took me weeks to crack. Population models, genetic drift calculations, ecosystem collapse timelines, they ran the numbers. They understood what radiation alone would do to humanity over 200 years, and they were delighted. Let me read you something. This is from an internal memo dated March 2076, 18 months before the bombs fell, from a Vault-Tec executive whose name has been redacted from every record. The FEV represents a complication to our long-term objectives. Accelerated mutation creates stable populations too quickly. We require gradual devolution. We require chaos that cannot organize itself. We require subjects who forget they were ever human. Do you understand what that means? Vault-Tec did not want humanity to survive intact. They wanted to study what happens when you break a species apart, when you force it to adapt to impossible conditions, when you remove every safety net and watch it struggle. The vaults were not shelters. We knew that already, but they were not just experiments either. They were control groups. Each vault was designed to preserve a small population of baseline humans, unchanged, uncontaminated, while outside, the rest of humanity tore itself apart and mutated into subspecies. Then, after enough time had passed, after the outside populations had diverged sufficiently, the vaults would open. The baseline humans would emerge, and Vault-Tec would study what happened when you reintroduced the original species to its mutated descendants. Would they recognize each other? Would they cooperate? Would they war? That was the experiment. That was always the experiment. And FEV ruined it. Because FEV created mutations too fast, too dramatic. Super mutants were obviously different from humans, clearly other. There was no ambiguity, no slow blurring of the lines between human and post-human. The Master's unity forced humanity to choose sides. You were human or you were mutant. Clear categories, distinct identities. That is not what Vault-Tec wanted. They wanted the lines to blur. They wanted vault dwellers to emerge after 200 years and find creatures that were almost human, close enough to be disturbing, different enough to be threatening. They wanted to watch Vault Dwellers struggle with the question of whether these mutated tribals were still people, whether they deserved rights, protection, or whether they were animals to be exterminated. That was the real experiment, not survival. Moral dissolution. How long does it take for humans to stop seeing other humans as human? What degree of mutation is enough to justify genocide? When does self-defense become extermination? These were questions Vault-Tec wanted answered. Questions they were willing to destroy the world to study, and FEV interfered. The Master created super mutants that were so obviously different that there was no moral ambiguity. You fought them or you joined them. Simple, clean. The slow horror Vault-Tec had planned never materialized, but I have seen what would have happened. I have run the models using their own data. I have extended the projections forward. And I need you to understand what the wasteland would look like right now, in 2287. If FEV had never existed, the vaults would be opening, right on schedule, just like they did in the real timeline, but the world outside would be unrecognizable. Vault 101, the player character's home in the capital wasteland. In the real timeline, they emerged to find super mutants, raiders, settlements struggling to survive but recognizably human. In this timeline, they would emerge to find nothing familiar at all. The tribals near the vault would be 4th or 5th generation wasteland adapted. Short, grey-skinned, eyes like cats. They would speak a language that evolved from English but is no longer intelligible. Their culture would be based on survival practices that seem barbaric to vault dwellers. And they would look at the vault dweller with hunger, not metaphorical hunger, actual hunger. Because in this timeline, cannibalism is not a raider thing. It is not a choice made by the insane or the desperate. It is standard practice. It is how you survive when all other food is contaminated or scarce. The tribals would see a vault dweller the same way you see a Brahmin. Meat, clean meat, uncontaminated by radiation, valuable, rare. The vault dweller would have to make a choice immediately. Fight or die. There would be no negotiation, no building trust. The cognitive gap would be too wide. The tribals would not understand concepts like trade or diplomacy. They would understand strength and weakness, predator and prey. Every vault opening would be a tragedy. Vault 13, the original game's starting point. In the real timeline, the vault dweller emerges, finds the water chip, saves the vault, fights the master. In this timeline, they emerge to find the Vipers, but not the Vipers as we know them. These would be tribals who worship mutated snakes because the snakes are smarter than they are. The snakes have learned to cooperate with the humans. Symbiosis between species because both are desperate to survive. The tribals would capture the vault dweller, not for information, for breeding. Fresh genetics are valuable. The tribes that can kidnap vault dwellers and force them to reproduce have an advantage. Their children are healthier, stronger, smarter. This is what Vault-Tec wanted to study. This is the horror they engineered, and it would happen at every vault. Every emergence would be a confrontation between baseline humans who remember civilization and post-humans who have forgotten it ever existed. Some vault dwellers would try to help, to educate, to uplift these mutated tribals back to humanity. It would fail. Always. The gap would be too wide. You cannot teach advanced concepts to people whose brains have been shaped by generations of radiation damage. You cannot restore lost knowledge to populations that have no framework for understanding it. The vault dwellers would become warlords, or they would die. Those are the only options. Use their superior technology and education to dominate the tribals, or be overwhelmed by numbers and intimate knowledge of the hostile wasteland. And over time, the vault dwellers would change too. They would adapt, interbreed with the tribals. Their descendants would be hybrid populations, smarter than pure tribals, more adapted than pure vault stock. In 4 or 5 generations, the distinction would blur again. The cycle would continue. This is what evolution looks like in accelerated time. This is what happens when you remove the stabilizing influence of organized threats like the Unity, endless fragmentation, endless divergence, humanity splitting into 1,000 different subspecies, each adapted to local conditions, none of them able to rebuild what was lost. The Brotherhood of Steel would not exist to preserve technology. The NCR would not exist to impose order. There would be no large factions at all, just tribes and vaults and the endless struggle between them. And Vault-Tec would be watching, recording, analyzing, because some vaults were designed to survive long-term. Vault-Tec's leadership vaults, hidden facilities with sustainable resources, they would ride out the 2 centuries. They would watch the experiment unfold through remote sensors and hidden cameras. And when enough data had been collected, when they had their answers, they would emerge. They would use their preserved technology to dominate whatever was left. They would be gods, walking among devolved post-humans who could barely remember language. That was the plan. That was always the plan. FEV destroyed it. The Master's emergence forced Vault-Tec to accelerate their timeline. The Unity threatened their observation vaults. The organized super mutant armies could actually pose a danger to their long-term facilities, so they stayed hidden. They abandoned the experiment. They let events play out without intervention, and humanity survived because of it. Because the Master gave us something to fight against. Because the threat of the Unity forced the remnants of civilization to organize, to cooperate, to stay human long enough to rebuild. I know how this sounds. I know it seems like I am saying FEV saved us. I am. The virus designed to create super soldiers. The virus that created the Master and his army of mutants. The virus that nearly led to human extinction through enforced transformation. That virus saved us from something worse. From slow devolution. From fragmentation into subspecies. From Vault-Tec's ultimate experiment in watching humanity destroy itself. The wasteland we have now is brutal, dangerous, filled with super mutants and raiders and radiation. But it is survivable. It is rebuilding. The NCR controls California. The Brotherhood preserves technology. Settlements are growing. Trade routes are being established. Hope exists. In the timeline without FEV, hope would be extinct. There would be nothing left to hope for. Just endless survival in an ever-darkening world. So when you see a super mutant, remember that. Remember that their existence, however tragic, gave humanity structure, purpose, a reason to maintain our identity instead of letting it dissolve into chaos. The Master believed he was creating a better future, unity through transformation, peace through homogeneity. He was wrong, but his wrongness was better than the alternative, because the alternative was no future at all, just extinction by degrees. Humanity forgetting itself one generation at a time until nothing recognizable remained. I have walked through the ruins of this alternative timeline in my mind. I have seen the projections. I have run the models. I have studied Vault-Tec's data until I could recite it in my sleep. And I am telling you now, as someone who has dedicated 2 decades to understanding what could have been, that we are lucky, impossibly lucky. The wasteland is a nightmare. But it could have been so much worse. It should have been worse. Without FEV, we would be extinct in everything but name. Our descendants would be alive, yes, but they would not be us. They would not remember us. They would not care. The radiation would have won. Entropy would have won. Vault-Tec would have won. Instead, we have a fighting chance. We have factions. We have goals. We have the possibility, however slim, of actually rebuilding civilization. And we owe that to a virus. To a weapon. To something that was designed to destroy us, but instead gave us just enough structure to survive. This is my confession. This is my testimony. This is what I have learned from studying the world that never was. The Master was a monster. The Unity was a threat. Super mutants are dangerous and tragic and should never have existed. But they did exist. And their existence saved us from something we could never have fought. Something that would have broken us slowly, quietly, inevitably. They saved us from ourselves. From our own biology, from natural selection, running wild in the worst possible conditions. So the next time you fight a super mutant, remember you are fighting something that gave humanity a future, an enemy that paradoxically became our salvation by being defeatable, by being organized enough to oppose, but not inevitable enough to be unstoppable. The wasteland without FEV would be pure horror. No heroes, no victories, no hope, just the long, slow slide into darkness. Into devolution, into extinction of the mind before the extinction of the body. We avoided that, barely, by accident, by the unintended consequences of a virus designed for war. And I thought you should know. I thought someone should understand what we were saved from, what the real alternative was. Because when you understand that, when you truly grasp what the wasteland could have been, the world we actually got seems almost merciful by comparison. Almost. This recording will self-destruct in 30 seconds. I have left copies in secure locations. If you are hearing this, then I am already dead. The information is too dangerous. Vault-Tec's remnants cannot allow it to spread, but now you know. And knowing changes everything, remember this. Remember what I have told you. Remember that sometimes salvation comes from the strangest sources. that sometimes the monster is the only thing standing between you and something worse. The wasteland is not kind. It was never meant to be, but it could have been crueler. It could have been absolute, and we should be grateful it was not.